Hello, this is Scott Pacino, editor of Telecoms.com here at Mobile World Congress 2025, and I'm on Ericsson's magnificent stand. Delighted to be speaking to Gabriel. So it all seems to be going well. I'm really enjoying your stand right now. We've got the old radios that pay the bills for all of us behind us. So why don't we just get straight into it and ask you a big theme that Ericsson has been talking about for a few years now is high-performing programmable networks.
Yeah.
Can you give us an update on that?
Yeah. No, it's going really well. I mean, I think we see customers are progressing now through the first half of 5G deployment, have built out a lot of high performance in their networks, and now they're looking for added the programmability part, and that kind of comes with two benefits. It's really going after the business paradigm of being able to add multi-purpose networks and add more services, use cases, and that you're looking to monetize. And it's also addressing the operational efficiency. So things that you would normally do with extensive configuration and quite cumbersome, you can do on-node automation and really take that complexity away and make it more easier and simpler to deploy. So we're seeing good uptake, especially from the leading customers, and we project that will continue with the network evolution going ahead.
Okay. And I suppose you say the elephant in the room, but certainly the dominant sort of buzzword of the show is AI, as it was last year. But things have moved along quite a lot in the past year. Perhaps you could just touch on AI as it affects your job and Ericsson.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, AI in RAN or related to networks is in so many domains, right? So it's really important to talk about different applications. So one thing is definitely AI usage in RAN, where you kind of replace algorithmic approach with AI models. And that would really be helpful because AI excels at some things, like if you have a really multi-purpose or complex optimization problem, or if you're contextualizing with lots of local data. So that's where we kind of see the main added benefit in terms of the embedded into the RAN AI functions. But then you also add applications on top. We talked a little bit before here about our apps or applications that can augment the RAN network. And many of those, they will sit higher in the network and they will benefit from having lots of data fed into a common data lake. And that's where you can do cross-processing and look for things, how to optimize across maybe a segment or a cluster of the network and find better performance and operational use cases in that way. And then of course you have the complementary approach of AI workloads that will drive new requirements on connectivity needs. And maybe it will even revitalize the edge proposition, right? Bringing applications that users want to consume and that requires a little bit of stringent latency, executing closer to the connectivity and the user. So AI for sure will influence, the way we see it, many parts of the network, but the way it will be done will be different depending on the domain.
Yeah, well, AI is a big catch-all term, isn't it?
It is.
And then moving on to like the radio, which is your core area, of course, and 5G Advanced.
Yeah.
Can you just tell us a little bit about how that's progressing and what opportunities that's bringing about?
Yeah, we're super excited. I mean, we launched the 5G Advanced portfolio here about 6 months ago, and we're already seeing strong uptake. Testing some of the concepts that we came out with. We talked about intent-driven networks. And we have a super exciting example of that. We call it Advanced Energy Saver. It's a functionality that you deploy on the node that uses an intent to configure, I want my users to have a certain user experience, but while that is satisfied, I also want to optimize my energy consumption. So in real time, you can secure both that the user experience is fulfilled and that after that point, you can say, how do I optimize the energy bill that goes with that? So it's a really concrete example of intents being used in the resource domain already now. We also have a very recent example in India with a religious holiday called Manakum, which is a 12-year event, and we carried 15 million users on a close, very dense network. And we used automated radio resource partitioning. Now that's a fancy word for saying that you want to make sure that different types of services that are used. In this case, we had priority on mobile broadband, we had voice over NR, and we had fixed wireless access. So you want to allocate the right amount of resources to each user group without sacrificing any spectrum that you can actually produce use cases and services for. So that function is now fully automated, which makes it extremely useful. It's a little bit like spectrum sharing, but for different services.
Okay. Yeah.
So those are a couple of examples of 5G Advanced in practice.
And just one more thing, I wonder about the sort of 5G Advanced angle on it. Just the general concept of openness. Obviously, in the context of networks.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about 5G Advanced and openness?
Yeah. So 5G Advanced is mostly software features, and in some extensions, launching of RedCap, it's tied to devices coming in. But really, the main purpose for our software strategy is to make sure that is independent. What kind of open fronthaul you run with, if it's an Ericsson radio, or if we integrate a third-party radio, it should principally work the same. Same goes for what compute platform you use. If you use a COT server or if you use an Ericsson purpose-built. So those kind of elements of openness shouldn't really matter from a 5G Advanced standpoint.
Yeah.
Then what we have, which is an added benefit, is you have introduction of an architecture called Services Management Orchestration. And that's a word really, that a platform that allows you to use third-party applications or customer-defined applications or even vendor-defined applications that can augment the RAN contact. And that really helps 5G Advanced because you can work on automation on different levels and bring new use cases to life in that way. So adding the SMO and support for these R apps is really going to augment 5G Advanced the way you see it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.